Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Happy Sunday. How is everybody? Hi, Kate. Oh, I think that's from earlier this morning. Tennille. Mo. Taint. Hello, hello. So I think, isn't it so good? Because the
Thank you.
YouTube genius that is Finding Hope created it. She's so talented.
Okay.
It's the truth. It's the truth. Don't be so modest. So we'll give it like another minute, see if people are going to come in, and then we'll get started. Hey, No Tail. Good afternoon. Get your coffee, your tea, your beer, your wine, your Coca-Cola, because we got a story to tell.
Let's see. Now you are quiet to me, Audie.
Because I'm probably talking lower than I normally do. How do I sound? Because she's in the other room sleeping, but how do I sound? Can everybody hear me and Hope before I go fiddling around with volumes? And then one of us will be blaring. And we're going to be doing some screen sharing and things like that. So keep in mind, this is our first live covering a case. So bear with us.
Take it easy on us.
Good. Yeah. But make sure you subscribe and hit the thumbs up. Okay, so Taint said we sound good. Okay, and Mo said we sound good. Hi, SA. All right. So why don't you want to get started, and I'll make sure we have everything ready. Do you want the slides up first, or do you want to kind of do a little intro?
I think we can start the slides, and then I can do
talk as we go.
As you're.
Hey, Pecan. Okay.
Hey, Pecan.
As we're going through them. Okay, get ready for the screen share. Dun 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 dun. Okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Okay.
Is it gonna work?
Is it gonna work? Boom. All right. So here we are. Here we are.
So kind of the thing about this case is there's several murders that took place in Bardstown within like a 4-year period. And 2 of them we're not going to talk about because they kind of don't fit how the others took place. So we kind of don't feel like they're related. It was a mother and daughter, and I don't know if you even read into that, Audie, but it sounded to me like that was kind of a maybe home invasion type thing. So
yes, I did. Yep, I read about it, and I don't think it ties in to the story that we're going to be telling and the discussion we're going to be having. I think it was an unfortunate, horrible, horrific thing that happened, but I agree with you. I mean, unless we come to find something else out down the road as we follow this, I do not think it was related.
Yes. So there's actually going to be 3 cases that kind of circle around Crystalrogers. She's kind of the main point because she is the one that is still missing, and she is presumed deceased, but she has not been found. So, and then the other 2 cases are not unsolved, or sorry, they are unsolved, but they are, you know what I'm trying to say. Help me out, Audie.
Yeah, so they have a body, right? So for Crystal, like there's still no proof. I mean, she's presumed deceased, but they never got a body. The other cases, there is a body was there. They were able to, there was, an autopsy and all of that stuff. So it was quite apparent what happened, which makes it different than Crystal's story. I want to try let me see. Will the slides switch while I'm? No, I have to go back over here. Okay. Let me go back into. Do I have to go here to switch it? Okay. Did I switch the sides? Can you see the next slide?
Yes. Yes, yes.
Oh, good, because it's not showing for me on YouTube yet.
Yeah, I think there's a lag.
It is. It's a delay. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So this is just kind of a layout of what they are. And so the first one happened in 2013, and it was actually a police officer, Officer Jason Ellis. And then the Kathy and Samantha Netherland, that's the ones that we're not going to really touch on, but that happened in 2014. And then Crystalrogers went missing in 2015. And Tommy Ballard is actually Crystal's father, and he was murdered in 2016. And this is a very small town in Kentucky. It's actually, I think it was actually named like the most beautiful town in America or something crazy like that.
Correct. I was actually, there's a really good podcast called Bardstown that I have been listening to, and it is named one of the most beautiful places in America. It's like known for its bourbon, and there's like a lot of history there, and it's like, all things considered, a really beautiful place to live. They just have this like daunting history here where this whole thing is very entwined. As we go on, you'll see that it's not just random, which is terrible enough. There's just it all ties in, and it's for a small community, this prestige little community, as you can imagine. Not only is it frightening, but it's also left people just wondering, what is going on here, what happened.
Yes. So the first one is Officer Jason Ellis, and he was 33 years old. He served on the Bardstown Police Force for 7 years. He had 2 young children. His first son actually was born with Down syndrome. He was married. He volunteered coaching youth baseball in the community. So he was and he got into the police force and started getting recognition for things very quickly. So, I did not put these in good order. Sorry. So Pecan is there's actually 4 murders with bodies. There was Officer Ellis, and then there's a mother and daughter, and then Tommy Ballard, and those are all murders where they have the bodies. Crystal is presumed deceased, but she is still missing. So,
and I just want to add, and correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Tommy's sister also murdered back in the 70s?
Yes.
Yes.
She was, I think it was an ex that was actually convicted for hers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just kind of interesting. It's like, I had said to Hope when I first started researching this, hey, Dallas, that it's like the Kennedys, I always think they're just like so engulfed in tragedy, right? There's just so much heartache, so much tragedy. That's what this family reminds me of. It's just there's been so much loss and so much really terrible stuff that's happened. And as we go forward, I think when all the pieces come together, it's really quite daunting. And these particular murders all happened in a 2-year period, right? Or 3-year period.
Yes.
14, 15, 16. Yeah. So in 3 years, you have the police officer, the mother and daughter, who we do think is unrelated, but still, and then Crystal, and then Crystal's father. So, it's quite alarming. I'm sorry, I'll let you discuss what we're looking at here. I'll be quiet.
Oh, well, I put these in bad order. That's my fault. So this is...
Do you want me to jump around? Do you want me to go to a different slide? I can go to a different number.
Yeah, because I kind of want to show this after I discuss what happened
Sure.
that night. I don't know why I did that.
Do you know what slide?
Learning experience right there. Yeah.
Okay.
And so he is one of the few unsolved murders nationwide in which a police officer is the victim. He, like I said, he joined the force in 2006. This is just kind of some background on him. He received Governor's Award for Impaired Driving Enforcement in 2007. He was Officer of the Year in 2008. And he was the only canine officer at the Bardstown Police Department in 2008. So he did a lot of the drug enforcement in the area. I think that's what I read. Audie,
Yes.
did you see
Yep.
that?
Yep. Yep. And I think his dog was. Oh no. Yes, he was. It was drug enforcement. Correct. And like you said, he was the only canine in this area. And like for me, and I think that it is very different for me versus you, just like demographically, because where I live, it's not very open, right? So it's not like big open space where people have acres of land and things like that. So our police, like everything's just very close. So there's a lot of police because there's a lot of people. Whereas when you're in an area like this, it's probably one police department with I don't know how many officers, like one canine dog. I think my town probably has 6 canine dogs. You know what I mean? Like it's just a different experience because, you have this one police department in this small town and now just is all of a sudden going to be bombarded with like what some small towns probably have never had happen ever. Maybe one
Yes.
murder, but okay. Whenever you're ready, just tell me which slide.
I actually live about 3 hours away from Bardstown, so it is very different here because there is a lot of drugs in the area. There's a lot of meth in this area, but the police presence is not big anywhere. So this was the weekend before Memorial Day, and Officer Ellis went into work on May 24th. And the only thing that was different is his patrol vehicle, his canine patrol vehicle, was in the shop. So he did not have Figo. His German Shepherd was not with him. And he was in a pool police car that had no dash cam. So it sounded like he had a pretty uneventful evening dealing with normal stuff. He signed off with his badge number around 2 a.m. on May 25th before starting 15-mile drive back to his house. And the thing is, he drives the same route every night. And another thing that's going to run through all of these cases is the Bluegrass Parkway is involved in all of them. So he took a particular exit every time, and he got off of the exit. And keep in mind, it's 2 a.m. And it is a curve. When he came around the curve, there was tree limbs across the road. So he kind of turned his cruiser sideways to block anybody else coming and going around the tree limbs. He got out to clear the road. And you can go to the next one, Audie. So he bent down to pick up all the tree limbs, had all of the tree limbs in his arms, stood up, and got hit with a barrage of bullets that ended up being fired, they determined, from a shotgun. So he did have his ballistic vest on, but he ended up getting shot in his arm and the side where his vest didn't cover, and his neck and his head. And he did not even have time to reach for his service weapon. It happened so quickly, and he died within minutes.
So I think it's quite apparent, based on this information and what they were able to gather, that it was like an ambush, right? Because obviously the limbs didn't just put themselves in the road. And I think from what I was listening to on the podcast from this one woman has been following this case since the beginning. And I will get her name for anybody that's interested. And I'll share it in the chat when I get it. But I had said this to Hope when I had heard about it, that and it wasn't. I mean, it was a 12 gauge shotgun, which,
Yeah.
I mean, that is just brutal and really, like, I mean, of course it's horrible no matter what. But just to me, just was so aggressive. Oop, I think I might be having my connections unstable. Can everybody hear us? Okay. Sorry. I just want to make sure. Okay, it should be good now. I've just saw that little Wi-Fi thing pop up and it said connection unstable, and I've never seen that before. Okay, so I'm sorry. I'll be quiet now, and we'll get back to the bullet points.
So if you'll go back now to was it the third slide, I think, with the pictures of the exit? Yeah. So you can kind of see coming around the bend, there's kind of a hill there on that right side. And the trajectory of the bullets would show that somebody was standing up on that hill waiting for him to get out of his vehicle. And I think they waited for him to get his arms full of branches also, so that he didn't have time to reach for his weapon. And in the middle of the night, it would be impossible for him to see someone hiding up in the bushes waiting for him. And the police chief thinks that he was definitely ambushed for several reasons. The limbs that were in the road were actually not indigenous to the trees that were in the area, so they were brought in. They said it was very tactical, that it was somebody very familiar with firearms, and that they would have known that this was his normal route, that he didn't have his canine, he didn't have his dash cam, and what time he got off work. Audie, to just butt in and if you want to say something.
Oh, yes, I have no problems butting in. I just, I know that I think I also heard that there is some sort of what's the right word I'm looking for? Cliff is not the right word, but it's raised. I think we can see that in these images right now, like where the black arrow is and the circle, we can see that it's raised. So this person was potentially above him. So they're at this, they have an advantage, right? The height advantage. So it just seems like this was well thought out, right? This was something
really,
that was very planned.
I don't know anything about guns, so I don't.
Oh,
I don't know.
Interesting. So, is it possible, like, again, that, if we're talking about somebody that's an experienced marksman, whether it's a shotgun or a rifle, maybe? No, well, it was 12 gauge. That's what they found in, right? The bullets were 12 gauge. So, assuming it was somebody that knew what they were doing. That's what I would think, because to me, it's just very planned out.
Yes.
I'm going to go to right here, back here, okay?
All right. So they still have not, they don't have any suspect. They had looked into, there's some local gang, and it's funny, I think even the Cornbread Mafia was mentioned, which cracks me up because that's mentioned in the Summer Wells case, but no, Mo, it was in May, so I don't think there's anything around here that we hunt that time of year.
And I don't think at 2 a.m., I don't think you can gun hunt, and I think this applies to wherever you are. I think it's from dawn to dusk. I don't think you can gun hunt. I mean, be it illegally, sure, but again, the branches in the road is just a dead giveaway. Knowing that they're not even indigenous to the trees in that area, I think is just a tell that that this was very, very on purpose. So I don't think. I mean, it's possible, and we're going to get into the hunting stuff. Oh, that's going to come up. That is going to come up. So and we can. Well, let me go back over here. We'll get to. There's his pup.
And yeah, Pecan, the cornbread mafia, I know that is a crazy thing. We have some interesting gangs in the area. I think there was another one it's called the Money Gang, which is, it's Kentucky originality, I guess.
Wait a second. There's really a cornbread mafia? I thought that was like a name given to something like as a joke. I didn't know that was really a thing. Unbelievable.
No, that's a thing.
That's wild.
But, considering that he was in drug enforcement, of course, they looked into all of that as being possibilities of who could have targeted him, because it definitely was an ambush. Yeah, I think that's covers his pretty well. So then we move on to Crystal. So Crystal was 35 and she's a mother of 5 children. She was living with her boyfriend and his name is Brooks. And I say the last name, Audie.
It's Brooks Houck. Houck. It's pronounced Houck.
That's hard for me to say.
I know. It's strange when you look at the way it's spelt, but that's how they were saying it when I was listening to the podcast. That's how she was pronouncing it, as Brooke Houck. So that's how I pronounce it.
My accent doesn't want to say it like that.
We'll just call him Brooke. It's better to use first names because there's going to be some people that share last names. So I think using first names is better anyway.
So Crystal had 4 other children from a previous relationship, and then her and Brooks have a 2-year-old son. So she was last seen on July the 3rd, 2015. And so there's kind of I've heard several different stories about the night that she was last seen. And I'm sure Audie has too. So I'm going to just kind of go over the story that I heard. And then if Audie has a different one, she can give hers. So Brooks was the last person to see her. And supposedly they had a date night planned for July the 3rd, which whenever he was interrogated, and we're going to play a little bit of the interrogation because it's interesting. He states that their date night involved them and their 2-year-old going to his mother's farm and feeding the cows. So sounds like a great date night to me, but I don't know.
Do what you will with that. I mean, it is kind of interesting that that's the story. I mean, and to describe it as date night, I thought was strange rather than just saying we were taking our son to feed the cows. I mean, it's just very weird. It's just weird.
And interesting that they did start a fire too, that they had a fire. Just because when I think of bodies and fires, it's not good. But so anyway, he says they went out and fed the cows and got back home around midnight. And when he went to bed, Crystal was still awake and she was on her phone playing games. And when he woke up the next day, she was gone and her car was gone. And he said he didn't think anything about it because sometimes she gets up and goes out with her friends, and he wasn't concerned. And he got up and got their 2-year-old ready and went to his mom's house for the 4th of July. Is that your take, Audie?
Sorry, I have to go back and forth to mute and unmute. Yes, that's pretty much the same thing that I got from my research. That he got up in the morning, said, figured, okay, she's out, she's doing whatever, and then he took off, went to his mother's with the 2-year-old. I will say the one thing I didn't hear much about, and it could just be just the way that it's been reported, really much, and you may have, because you have a lot more information than I do, about the other children. I mean, I really don't hear anything about the children, and not that it really matters, but obviously because they share this child, this child seems to come up more. And when we get a little bit further along, I do have a question that you probably will be able to answer about the other 4 kids.
Maybe.
Yeah, so she was last seen on the 3rd of 2015. And then we can move on to when her car was found. Okay, here we go.
So yeah, the 4th of July went by. Now her parents were trying to get in touch with her and couldn't reach her. But then, they just, because Brooks was acting like there wasn't anything wrong, nobody was super alarmed until July the 5th, when her car was found on the Bluegrass Parkway with a flat tire. And it was very odd. It was unlocked. The keys were in the ignition. Oh, can you not hear us speaking? Am I a robot?
Is no robot? Okay, thank you. Okay, it corrected, Hope. It's okay.
Okay. So the keys, it was unlocked. The keys were in the ignition. Her purse and her cell phone were inside. The phone was dead. And at this point, Crystal's mother began to worry, and finally she got reported missing. Now, Brooks did not report her missing and still did not seem very concerned.
And there was also, she had a flat tire, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, we're up to the 5th. So 2 days after she was last seen, and only mom at this point has reported her missing. And boyfriend was like, nah, she's out with her friends. Now, I think Mo had commented that there was reports of them having an argument. It would have been the day before. I didn't recall hearing that, but I could be very wrong because I've heard a lot. But that may come up in the interview.
It kind of varies because he has kind of given different stories to different people. And I think he said that it was a disagreement about the child. He said, I think, that Crystal felt like their 2-year-old got more attention than her other children. So I think he said it was a disagreement, not an argument. But
interesting.
Yeah. Who knows how true that is?
Okay. Are we in the right slide? Is this in the correct order?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good.
So July 8th is when Brooks first sits down to have an interview with the detectives. And it's an interesting interview. If you have the time and are interested, I encourage you to watch all of it, because I find several things very interesting about it. I watch a lot of behavior analyst stuff. So one of the biggest things that strikes me with him is he has a lot of details, unnecessary details, like even down to talking about what the 2-year-old ate for breakfast, and that it was a liquid yogurt, and how much was it eaten. I mean, things that were so irrelevant.
And I find it that we've learned this a lot just paying attention to things within the true crime community, as well as watching other cases and just actually watching people in general, I think, on YouTube. Sometimes when somebody's divulging too much information, it's like, what is the saying? They're like building the lie. I'm not saying he's lying, but it's just immediately after listening to that, you kind of get this weird thing of like, well, it's like almost putting in all these extra details and all this extra stuff that's so unimportant when you're I know they're not married, but the mother of your child, your girlfriend, is missing. Like, who cares about that? You're a relatively intelligent guy. You know what they're looking for. You know what information they want. And it's kind of like muddying the waters a little bit. That's my opinion of it. And we'll elaborate.
Yeah, it's like distraction. And that was one of the biggest things that I noticed about his whole interview. There's one point that he gets tearful, and it is not about what you would think he would be tearful about. He's very much calm, cool, and collected. There's a point where he comes out and says that he's basically a single parent now, which I thought was very interesting. Because at this point, she's only been missing for 5 days, and he's, already written it off as he's now a single parent. And one of the most interesting things is he is talking very freely. I think he's in there for almost 2 hours or so. And if you look at the clock on the wall, almost exactly 7 p.m., I feel like this was planned, but I don't know. His brother, who is also a police officer with the Bardstown police force, calls his cell phone, and he answers it, and he makes, like, verbally on his side of the phone, you can tell what the conversation is. And his police officer brother is telling him, don't let the detectives trip you up. You've been there too long. And Brooks gets off the phone, ends the interview. What's your thoughts, Audie?
Well, here's where things get interesting, because when the interview, and this is what I grabbed from it, and it's in your bullet points, but that interview ends, and him and his brother meet up and take off to the farm. And to me, this is where things get very, very interesting. They go right to that family farm, and I think, as you put it in your last bullet point, and when this comes up later, they can't even remember. I mean, again, like, you remember what the 2-year-old ate that morning, 3 days prior, 2 days prior, whatever it was. You remember all this other stuff, but when you're asked, well, as soon as you left the police department, probably in one of the most like stressful moments of your life, right? You're trying to find your partner, but you can't remember what you did for those 2 hours. I mean, if you said to a police officer, "Oh, I don't know, I just find that so strange," like during an interrogation or when they're trying to rule out people that could have potentially hurt this woman, and you're saying, "Well, I just don't remember what I did for those, not 10 minutes. It wasn't like a matter of 10 minutes for 2 hours." Right. It's alarming. It's concerning. And I know we're quick to kind of assume always that maybe it's the partner, the spouse, or the significant other, or the ex, but like this one, there's just too many red flags. So I think so then the security footage shows them pulling into the family farm at the same time and then leaving one after the other at 11:22 p.m. So the same evening, he leaves the police department at 7 p.m., or that's when the call takes place. And then at 11:22, he's leaving the family farm.
And they're together, and they have no idea what they did for 2 hours.
Yep, correct.
Okay. So on the 9th, the family is starting to really side-eye Brooks. So he agrees to do an interview with Nancy Grace, and he insists throughout the interview that he's 100% innocent. He doesn't know anything. Still very emotionless. That same day, they confiscate Nick's police cruiser to do, oh my gosh, what is the word?
It's just part of the investigation. That's what.
Yeah, they sprayed it with the luminol.
Luminol.
That's what it was.
Luminol. So I think I want to just make a clarifying statement here, because I know that we're going to be saying a lot of names and it's going to get a little bit muddled. Okay. The first murder was a police officer. Okay. This police officer, Nick, that we're talking about, is Brooks, the boyfriend of Crystal's brother. Okay. So Nick is Brooks' brother, the one who called him and said, "Get out of there. They're going to trip you up." Just to clarify, make sure everybody knows.
And Nick and Officer Ellis worked at the same police department. They were on different shifts, but they did work at the same police department.
Correct.
Just to keep that in mind. That same day, Nick refuses to sit down and talk with detectives. Red flag.
Yep. And he's a police officer. I mean, once again, I get it. I get, like, okay, I am a big believer in, like, you know what, get an attorney. You have to protect yourself. Things can happen. I am a big believer in that. But at the same time, you are a police officer in the department that's investigating, let's just say, your sister-in-law's disappearance. The fact that you are refusing to cooperate is a problem. And, like,
yes,
I know there could be reasons, and I understand, like I said, maybe wanting to have an attorney present, or maybe your representative, or, you know, your whatever they call them, like the union, whatever, for the police officers. But cooperate. I mean, if you have nothing to hide, then cooperate. I just don't get it. So he refuses to talk to them.
It's crazy.
Yep, and it'll get crazier.
So then the next day, on July the 10th, the sheriff's office executes a search at the family farm. And this was the farm that they went to on their date night. And this would be the first of multiple searches on this property. And they did not find anything of interest.
And let me add, it's also the farm that Nick and Brooks went to after the questioning. When Nick called Brooks and said, "Enough, get out of there." Same farm.
Oh. So then we go on to July 15th. And the police chief is kind of putting pressure on Nick at this point to participate with this investigation, as he should. So he finally sits down with investigators. And he's very vague. He, being a police officer, I'm sure he knows what to say. You know, if you say, "I don't recall," or "I don't know," that they can't catch you in a lie later because, you know, you're claiming you didn't know. So, and at that point, he agrees to take a polygraph that following Monday, and he ends up not showing up for the polygraph that he agreed to that day. So we go forward to the 24th, and I'm sure that he got spoken to some more by his police chief, but he did agree and show up to do the polygraph on the 24th, and it was administered by the FBI, and he failed. So whenever the FBI agent confronts him about the results of the polygraph, he gets very upset and argumentative and cusses, and it's interesting.
Is that the video we have?
Yes.
You want me to show it? Oh, you did? I'm sorry. I only downloaded the first one. Oh, wait. No, I must have downloaded. Was there 3?
I think there's 4.
Okay. So, do you want to put up the Nick interview about calling Brooks first, or what? Do you want to wait for these? What do you want to do? You want to get into the suspension first? I mean, we can.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to see the video now, or do you want to get a little bit more info first? What do you guys think in chat? Because I think, after on, let's see, so 7/24, he takes the polygraph, he fails, he has his little meltdown, and then on September 9th, he's suspended from the Bardstown police force for failure to cooperate with an investigation. So what do y'all think? You want to watch the video, or you want to keep trucking along and then come back, watch the videos at the end? Give us your feedback. Well, I go back into our email so I can pull those rest of those videos in case I didn't.
Tate says play it.
Play it. Play that beautiful, what does that say? Play that beautiful
Bean
footage. All right. So you want me to do Nick interview first? I think so, because we've talked about that, so that would probably make sense. So is it up on the screen by any chance, or do I have to switch? Let me look. I think I have to switch my screen sharing. Yes, I do. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see
So we're going
to be sure you check the audio box.
Oh, good to know. Okay. So we're going to...
Hi, 3-Boy Mom.
Hey, 3-Boy Mom. Okay. We're going to go to share screen. We're going to go to... Sorry, guys. I have to talk out loud. Or else... Okay, now. Check... Okay. Open with... Oh, boy. Do I have to do that? Okay, tell me if y'all can hear it. Can you see it? Can you guys see it on the screen? Oh, yeah. Okay. Can you guys hear me? No? Okay.
Basically, he was with John Snow for hours. Yes. Yes, I called up there. Brooks is a really cooperative guy. He's honest. And I just basically, I didn't tell him to leave. I told him, I said, you go ahead and finish up your, he was giving a narrative or whatever, a statement. I said, it's fine to give that. I said, say what you mean what you say. I asked him, I said, are they screwing you around? They ask you the same questions, but in different ways. Because he's been up there for hours. This wasn't no 1 or 2 hours. He may have been up there like 3 hours or 4 hours. It's been a while. And I figured John was screwing him around. And I just wanted to find out what was going on up there. So that's all that was about. If they want to read more into it, that's up to them,
I'm just asking you just because I had.
Yeah, he was with John Snow, period.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one was actually him talking about that when he called Brooks, and he's saying he did not tell him to leave the interview, that he was just telling him not to let them mess around with him and get him to say something to incriminate himself. So there should be another one, Audie, that's...
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
I got it. Give me 1 second. This one also says Nick's interview about calling. So let's see.
I know when he was being interviewed, he called and basically.
He was with John Snow. He was with John Snow for hours. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I called up there. Brooks is a really cooperative guy. He's honest. And I just basically, I didn't tell him to leave. I told him, I said, you go ahead and finish up your, he was giving a narrative or whatever, a statement. I said, it's fine to give that. I said, say what you mean.
I think that's the same one.
Are they screwing you around? They ask you the same questions, but in different ways. Because he's been up there for hours. This wasn't no 1 or 2 hours. He may have been up there like 3 hours or 4 hours. It's been a while. And I figured John was screwing him around. And I just wanted to find out what was going on up there. So that's all that was about. If they want to read more into it, that's up to them, you know?
I'm just asking you, just because I had.
Yeah, he was with Jon Snow, period.
For some reason, I thought that one was like a longer version of it. Let me go over here. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Patience. Okay, a Brooks interview, but we want, so I did the first Nick interview. This was the second Nick interview, I thought. And then I have video Brooks talking. Hold on. Let me see if I, bear with me. Hold on. Let me see if it's still Jon Snow.
Sorry, guys. Oh,
Okay,
I
that's
sent
when
you the
he's-
same one twice. Hold on.
Oh, okay. I was like, I didn't want to think I was crazy. Okay.
My
So
bad.
while we're getting that other interview, Jon Snow for Games of Thrones. That's what I was thinking too. Was he like implying that he was at home watching Game of Thrones or something? And he kept saying he's with Jon Snow.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
that's okay. We're not in any rush. At least we're not. And anybody that's hanging out, we appreciate you. Did you just send it?
No.
Oh,
Sorry.
I might have another one. Wait, I think I have another one. Hold on. You sent two together. Let me
I
just
think
see.
that's the same one. I'm really a pro at this.
You are actually very good at this.
Okay.
You made that beautiful intro.
I just really want y'all to see where he is confronted with failing the polygraph because it's very telling. Come on. Okay, I think I just sent it. So there's another point that's really interesting when Brooks was being interrogated. There was a point where they were going through the timeline, and I think I've sent her, I think I sent the video. They're going through the timeline of the events of the evening with them going to feed the cows and have the fire or whatever. And he says that they get back in the truck to go home, and it's around midnight. And there is a 13-second answered phone call that comes through on Brooks' phone. So the interrogator asked him who would be calling him at midnight and why they only talk for 13 seconds. So Brooks owns a lot of rental property and builds rental properties. So his claim was it was probably somebody from work calling to talk to him about a job, which is strange in itself. So they get the phone number, and he actually puts it on speakerphone and calls this guy who it was one of his workers. And it sounds very rehearsed because Brooks says, "Do you remember why you called me at midnight on this date?" And the man replies, "Oh, I was asking you about numbers for a house." And Brooks says, "Do you remember what I told you?" And the man says, "Yeah, you said you would have to ask Crystal and get back to me." So then the interrogator was asking, "Well, why did you say you would have to ask Crystal if she's sitting in the truck next to you driving home?" So I think I've sent that one to Audie too, but
So just I can't, for the sake of time, I can't it's telling me I need like access to open that one video, but I was able to get the video of the FBI expert with him discussing the polygraph results. So I'm just going to share that one. If there's like a spot specific that you want me to go to, you'll see it on the screen. Tell me, because I have to sign. I think it wants me to sign back in. I don't know why it kicked me out of my one Gmail account and into my Yahoo, but then I was like, oh boy, this can take forever. So I'm going to pop this up and then tell me if this looks right. Okay.
Okay.
I think it does. I think it does. Okay. And then we're going to play. I'm going to make it big. Okay. See if we can get it down here. See what I'm talking about? So it starts at the beginning. So, I mean, we can start there. Oops. What did I do? So let's listen.
Well, Nick, I've had a chance to review your charts.
Bye, Pecan.
You did not pass the test, and it's pretty clear to me that you haven't told me the complete truth today. The questions you're having a problem with are questions about Crystal, and in particular, the one about whether or not you know where she is right now. And I treat police officers in these circumstances like I would myself, so we're not going to go through all the interview interrogation nonsense. You and I are on the same page. But again, I'm also going to tell you the complete truth as we're sitting here. And it's no longer a matter of wondering, do you know anything about what happened? We're past that now. I mean, I got crystal clear with you. I give everybody a good, fair test. I'm no longer asking you if you know. You do. Now, what you want to do with that is entirely up to you. I'm going to yell and scream at you and get the syphilis phone book and all that. I'm talking to you man to man as a fellow law enforcement officer. That the time has come for you to think real hard about the rest of your life. This is you. I'm not talking about Brooks or anybody else. And I'm telling you facts life. I'm an old guy. I'm not trying to be a father figure here, but I'll tell you, I'm doing this for 25 years, the way that this pans out. When the FBI gets involved in this investigation, I want you to listen to one thing. You don't have to say anything to me. You do whatever you want to do. As I said, you may never even be an FBI agent, right? But once you get on the radar, we don't go away, unless there's a reason to. I thought there would be. We didn't pass this.
Audie, I think if you go around the 20-minute mark is where he starts getting really agitated.
Limited resources in terms of forensic. You were irritated, and there's
Like this, I mean, you're going to forget things.
you said you were irritated. Okay, which I understand. I would be too. Truthfully, no doubt about it.
Okay.
Okay. Have I been accused of things in the past that I didn't do? Yeah. Have I been accused of things I did do? Absolutely. Okay. And I've been irritated when I got accused of things I did do because I got caught. And then I got to face up to the consequences. You talk about being irritated in there. Tell me some of the things then. Like, again,
I'm not rehashing all this. I'm just.
No.
I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste mine.
My time is not wasted.
Listen,
we're here talking.
Listen, I don't know nothing about this.
Mhm.
Nothing at all, and I had nothing to do with it. I don't know anything.
Well,
If I had something to tell you, I would. She's got kids.
I'm aware of that.
Okay.
Why do you think we're here?
Okay. Look, I don't know nothing.
Well, something you just
Not
said.
even something insignificant.
Clear that up for me. What you just, because I said, why would you be less than candid with me or the other interview in the grand jury? And you said, why was that? Because I was irritated. Okay.
But just being irritated and being put in front of 12 people and accused of stuff like this, I mean, you're going to forget things and not be able to speak as well as you normally would. I mean, there's more to it than you're saying.
Well, that's what I'm asking. That's exactly what I'm asking.
Some of those things you can't explain. I'm not going to sit here and try to explain.
Take your time to relax. Look, as I said, I'm sitting here. I'm here working for you. If there's stuff to explain it. I will take all day with you to fix it.
And it would take all day to go through all this. I mean,
brother,
it's
you're on the
not.
clock. You're getting paid, so am I. Give me the thumbnail sketch if you want. Just explain to me what your big concerns are.
I'm not going there.
Why not? It makes no sense.
I'm not going there. Okay.
Well, it's not okay for me.
Well, I mean,
look at what we're dealing with here. We're talking about the potential murder of an individual or an accidental death, right?
And if I knew anything, I would help you
No,
out.
it's
But I
not.
don't.
We're going to.
I know where you're going
No,
with
you
this,
don't.
man.
Where am I going?
You're gonna just bring all this stuff about Crystal, and you need to
No.
be,
No,
go ahead.
I told you.
I'll-
I told you I wouldn't go this whole read technique stuff with you, right? What I'm talking about just is what you just said about explaining it to me so I can understand where you're coming from. You don't have to go through a whole life's history unless you want to. Just you said that you were irritated, and there's things that you don't know, man. That's what you said to me. Help me to understand what some of those things are that I don't understand. That would then make me understand the reason for this. There can be explanations, is my point.
Yeah, I mean, just this whole process, starting
me
from
about
the
it.
chief and going down. I'm not gonna do that.
But you said there's things I don't know
This
about
be
this.
shown to him. He'll be irritated, and then he'll be watched. I'm not doing that. It's that simple. I mean,
What do you mean? I'm not understanding.
you ought to be following me, man. If you're as sharp as if you work for the, you ought to be following me. Okay?
Talk to me
If I
like
start
I'm a
to-
kid then.
No, I'm not. Okay?
I'm giving you every opportunity.
And I'm telling you, no. Okay? I don't know anything about this.
Well, that's okay. That's not what I'm talking about. But you said there's things that
I'm
I
not
don't know
going
that
into
would
it.
explain it.
I'm not going into it. Okay?
Why not?
Because it's not worth going into.
I would think it would be very worth going into.
It's not worth going into.
Why not?
Okay? I'm not talking about it, period.
Why not?
Because I'm choosing not to.
Okay, that's fine. But tell
Okay,
me
I'm not
face to
gonna
face as a man, I'm not going to tell you the truth. That's all I'm asking.
That's not what I'm just saying.
That's what I'm hearing.
Well, then you need to
You-
rethink it.
Well, help me to rethink it then. Look,
I'm not going
trying
to,
to.
listen to me, I'm not going into it, okay? I
No,
mean,
it's not really okay.
I'm here to cooperate with your polygraph and all that stuff, and, you can make any kind of notes you want, you can assume that I failed. It didn't bother me.
What is it you haven't told me that's causing you such concern here?
I'm not going into to everything that's happened, I mean,
Like what?
I don't have nothing to do with this. Guys showing up at my house?
Look, this is the first day you and I have met, right?
Yes.
Have I been anything but cordial with you?
And I think I've been the same way with you.
I'm not accusing you of not being.
Okay, there's nothing else to discuss here.
Well,
I mean, if I had something to give you, I would. I don't.
Put yourself in my seat for just a second, okay?
Okay.
And I'm talking to someone who's a family member, essentially, is missing and possibly dead. And you're sitting here, and that individual, who you know nothing about, never met before today, right? But you've seen some interviews where he hasn't been completely truthful about things. Not just kind of, haven't been completely truthful about a couple.
I've been 100%
Listen to
truthful.
what I'm saying.
You listen to what I'm saying. I've been 100%
Why are you
truthful.
yelling at me?
Well, because you're telling me I'm lying and I know I'm not. I know the truth, And I've been 100%
You don't know
honest
the truth.
with you, the grand jury, and everybody else I've spoken
No,
with.
you haven't. Here's what I'm getting. We just said.
Yes, I have.
No, you haven't.
I most definitely have. And if you don't want to believe it, that's your issue. It's not mine.
It's not just me. I showed you.
Dude, I don't give a goddamn what your fucking computer said.
I
Okay?
think you do.
I'm telling you that I have been 100% honest with you.
Is this how you act? Does this act this way towards Crystal?
When somebody, is this how I act toward Crystal?
Yeah.
I act toward people that accuse me of lying when I'm not lying.
Did she
That's
accuse
how
you
I
of
act.
lying?
No, I didn't know Crystal.
Then why are you getting so angry?
Because you're calling me a fucking liar.
No,
That's
I'm
why.
just calling you a liar. I'm
Okay?
not cussed you.
I don't. I don't like it when people call me a liar. I'm being 100% truthful with you.
There's only the truth and not what you
Dude,
said.
why can't you? I'm being truthful.
Look, we're
Okay.
not 2-year-olds, all right?
Okay.
So it's not, yes, I am, no, I'm not. Yes, I am, no, I'm not. We're talking, look, I've been nothing but professional with you and trying to help you in this
Okay.
situation.
Other than calling me a liar when I'm not.
Look, if the right thing to do is to tell you you're not being truthful, then I'm going to tell you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay? Look, I don't care. Little lies, big lies, they're all the same in terms of the polygraph.
I haven't told any lies.
That's not entirely true.
It is 100% true.
Then help me to figure this out.
Okay.
What you just told me a moment ago, maybe explain it to me so that maybe I misunderstood what you're telling me. But you told me because you were irritated and there's all kinds of things that I don't know about, whatever, that I can't understand why you would say the things you said. That's what
Dude,
you
it's
told me.
just been an experience.
Well,
All this is going on.
But
You
that's
got
what I'm
guys showing
asking
up over at my house taking calls. I mean, this is crazy.
okay, but that's what I'm asking about. Are we talking about because of things that have been going on since it's happened, or are you talking about there's things that have gone on over time that I'm not understanding?
No, I'm talking about recently.
Okay, well, how am I supposed to know that? If you don't
Yeah,
tell
I
me
mean,
that?
It's the simple stuff, man. I mean, I have been 100% honest with you, and surely God, you can understand with people showing up at my house and my family out there taking cars. The neighbors are watching. Man, it's been screwed up.
Of course I can understand.
Okay,
But I wasn't there. How do I know all this?
well, man, you just assume. I mean, if you were a patrol officer and you got your chief showing up, and I mean, dude, that's crazy.
Look, I've been
Who the
nothing
hell-
but professional.
I mean, listen,
Okay.
they come up with all these lies about, well, there's bodily fluid in your car, there's blood. There is no way in hell there is any blood in that car.
I have no idea.
Everybody's told me that. You know, like I speak with the state police, that's the first thing they said.
Okay.
Grand jury, I mean, it's crazy.
But I'm not them, right?
Okay, but I'm just saying, this is crazy.
It may be. All I'm saying, look, I'm not vouching for all this stuff. The evidence will speak for itself, right?
Sure.
So it really doesn't matter what people want to say or not. The evidence that I've told you about that I can demonstrate are things that we already do have back that I can show.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't think they're anything that paint you in a horrible light. They show discrepancies with what you've said. Well, there may be a very clear reason for
And
that.
there is.
Well, that's all I'm saying. I'm not. Look, when I accuse you of lying over here, okay, and lie is a bad one. Nobody wants to hear a lie. We've all lied in our lives. I don't care who you are. I have, no doubt about it. We all have. Nobody wants to hear that. But somebody who's telling a lie, it's the same thing as saying they're not being completely truthful, right? Okay, that's a little prettier way of saying it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the same thing. I'm not saying you're so dishonest, you're so vision, but that's not what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is today with you, I have been 100% honest, and I don't know nothing about it. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and I'm saying that that's not entirely true, but it could be.
I mean,
But listen to what I'm saying here, okay? You want to get mad in defense about it. Hear what I'm saying, okay?
go ahead.
Because I'm truthful. I'm going to be completely truthful
Okay.
as I have been. Person would fail a polygraph on the questions that I asked you on a spectrum of issues, whether it be, yeah, you were out there and watched her get shot and killed by somebody. And again, I'm making that up, all right? You would fail if that had happened and you told me you knew nothing about it, right? Obviously. On the far end of the spectrum, if there's something you know about in your mind that you haven't told me or other investigators, could be about as simple as you saw an argument one time, and again, I'm making it up. You saw an argument between Brooks and Crystal a year ago where she pushed him.
They've never been physical with one another.
I'm making it up.
Okay.
What I'm talking about is the bigger picture is you would fail a polygraph on something that simple or something that dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. It could be anything in between. I'm not assuming it's a worst case. In fact, I'm assuming it's something you just haven't got off your chest with me or someone else. That's all I'm saying. Is it a little more clear what I'm talking about?
It is, but there's nothing on my chest.
Well, but here's the thing, and I think that there is.
Okay.
And again, I'm not assuming that it's something huge and dramatic. It may be. I can't tell you what this thing is going into your brain and telling you this is what you're seeing. That's not what I'm saying. All this does is tells me, do you, not me, do you feel you are being completely truthful or do you not? And it is telling me you do not feel you're being completely truthful. Well, that's okay. Your level of what's truthfulness may be a little different than mine. That's why I take the time to explain what I'm asking and why I'm asking it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's clear that when I ask that question, you can confidently say yes or no. Well, obviously, with those two questions in particular, about Crystal and about whether you're hiding any information, there's something that you weren't confident enough to say with 100% certainty. There's some other thing, and it may be a personal family issue, for all I know, that you feel, and frankly, I think it's probably something along those lines, that you feel, well, man, if I tell them that, they're going to think that he's just evil or he did something terrible. I'm not going to think.
If anything stands out in my mind, I'll tell you.
Well, then looking back at, when you think about this investigation, and not from other investigators else, the investigation and what happened to Crystal and how that's affecting your brother and his child. With all this, when you sit at home at night and laying in bed, you think about what's your biggest concern and looking back, because we all do. We all are analytical in law enforcement. We think about everything that's ever happened, right? And you start assessing this. You may not discuss it with everybody else. I get that. People handle emotions in different ways, especially in traumatic circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I know I do. I'm an internal person. But I guarantee you that means I think about it inside more than I'm talking about it to other people. What I'm saying is, when you're sitting there at night, you're thinking about it. Maybe you talked to Brooks, but maybe you didn't. What is it? Where's your mind focus on something that you look back at and go, man, maybe that's something that I should have talked to Brooks about, or maybe that's something that might have had something to do with it. Where do you focus? These are just suspicions in your mind, right? But what do you think about? That's what cops do. That's what we do. Where does your mind land at when you think about those?
I don't know. I mean, I just don't, I didn't know Crystal. I didn't know Crystal. I don't really know my neighbor. I know that's sad.
I get it.
I mean, I just wasn't around them. I never really saw them argue anything. If they did it away from me. I don't.
Well, that's fine. And if they did argue in front of you, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people argue. So what? My point is if there's things, anyone along that nature,
Mm-hmm.
or even a comment that Brooks has made before or after she went missing, that may
Okay. So as far as the examiner with the polygraph examiner goes, that was pretty much it. And then it's just like a lot of just them like him comfort the polygraph examiner making him feel comfortable, in my opinion.
Yes.
I think what's interesting though, and Hope had mentioned it earlier, when Brooks, the boyfriend, was talking about the quote unquote date night and going to the farm to feed the cows and have like a bonfire, basically. And I'm not sure when we go back to the slides, I don't recall if this was there, but I'm going to share them. So if it is, I'm not jumping the gun a little bit, but there is something that kind of goes back to that I think is very interesting. So we know that he obviously failed the polygraph and he became defensive and argumentative, denies any knowledge. He basically says he doesn't even know her or his nephew for that matter, which I find very interesting. When all reports say like how close of a family they all were. So that's just kind of interesting to me. So he's suspended in September and then he's terminated in October for interfering with a police investigation. Brooks Houck and that the boyfriend, Brooks, is a suspect, and that Crystal is presumed deceased. Okay, so that's, where we're at with that. But let me see. I don't want to jump the gun, but something just popped into my head. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Now, do you want to get into, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to the next slide? Do you want to have a little, like, open discussion first? Do we talk about when they're searching with the cadaver dogs and that they hit on potential? And I know there's a lot of controversy about cadaver dogs, but that there was potential remains in that, like, burn pile.
We did not hit on that.
Okay, so Mattingly.
Real quick, before I forget,
go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you found this, but interesting that Brooks actually ran or signed up to run for sheriff in 2014 against Ed Mattingly. They were both Democrats, so in the primaries, of course, Mattingly won over him because Brooks has no police experience.
Yeah. I was just going to say he had no experience in law enforcement, so that's kind of interesting to run for sheriff. But okay, in 2015.
In 2014.
2014. Okay, I was going to say, wow, 2015. Okay, 2014.
So between Officer Ellis's murder and the disappearance of Crystal.
Correct. Now we got to throw some politics in there. So yes, Mo, there was, when the FBI retook over the case, there was tons of dogs involved, but after they released the interrogation videos, like, to the public, and that Mattingly made like a, spoke to the press, they made sure to say that, like, Brooks never asked for an attorney during any of, like, the questioning and stuff like that, and said he doesn't need one. But they said a search dog, I just found the exact quote, so I want to make sure I say it correctly. Detectives said a search dog led them to a suspicious pile of burned debris on property belonging to the Brooks family. So it's that same farm. And they asked him did you burn anything July 3rd? So, and of course he said, yes, I'm always burning stuff. We did a fire that night.
Right.
And that was during the questioning when Nick called him and said no more. Okay. So, I mean, you lose your job as a police officer for not cooperating in what is now a murder is
Yes.
quite alarming. Quite alarming. Now, if you want to elaborate a little bit on what's going on here with Danny Singleton, because this is interesting. Because he worked for Brooks.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, Brooks does rental properties and they build the properties that they end up renting. So Danny Singleton was his go-to guy, his right hand. And they early on, I think after all the interrogations, they went to a grand jury to see if they had enough evidence to indict, because Brooks was their main suspect and things were definitely strange. And so Danny Singleton was one that was in front of the grand jury. And what he ended up getting arrested and charged with 38 counts of perjury from that testimony, because he gave incorrect information about where he was at the time of Crystal's disappearance. And he pled guilty to it and spent some time in jail and then on probation. But this was one of the men that helped build the houses with Brooks. So it's just another interesting thing that he had a false story about his whereabouts that night.
Yeah, and these guys are builders. You know, they build these houses, these really quick builds, and then rent them out, basically. That's what he does. And this is interesting. This stood out to me. That good old grandma.
Good old
she
granny.
invokes her, good old granny invokes her Fifth Amendment right. Now, this is the property. This is the farm where she's living. Okay, the farm that they've been to now on date night. They've been to after the initial questioning. This is good old Granny Anna Whiteside's farm, and she chooses to invoke her Fifth Amendment right when she's subpoenaed, so that she didn't have to testify to the grand jury, or she did testify, but she just pled the Fifth or took the Fifth. So that's another fun fact.
And I never saw where the information that questioning the white Buick, I never saw where that came from.
So there's video footage of, or some sort of video, wherever it was captured from. I don't know if it was a somebody's surveillance on their property, or if it was like a camera, like a light, red light, green light.
There's a camera.
Yes.
Across from the farm, because that's how they knew how long they were at the farm that one night. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And they saw the, the two cars, but then the white Buick that Grandma owned at the time of Crystal's disappearance, that Brooks and Nick both used at times, was sold. So it was sold like right after the 3rd of July. And then we start getting into the custody stuff a year later, where Crystal's parents file for custody for the grandson against Brooks. Now, this is what I was going to ask you about before, Hope. So baby's probably 3 now, and Grandma and Grandpa want custody, and it is Brooks' biological son. Do we know the other children? Do we know, were they adults? Were they teenagers? Were they with the grandparents? Were they with bio dad? I don't remember seeing anything about them.
They were ranging in age. Some were teenagers. I think the youngest was maybe 8 or 9.
Okay.
But Crystal was actually still married to their dad. They had never divorced, even though she had been with Brooks for years. So,
yeah.
Weird. I don't know. But
Well, it explains why
I do
Brooks
believe
probably never got married.
he
because
was
she
involved in the kids' lives, and I think that he, as well as her parents, kind of split custody of them. I don't think there was a big to do over them.
Yeah, there
When
wasn't much
Brooks
of
ended
anything.
up,
Just this stuff with the youngest and the custody
Brooks ended
stuff.
up keeping custody. Yes.
Correct. Yes, he ended up with custody of the 3-year-old. Brooks got custody, and I saw that the grandparents were given visitation, like by court, like court ordered,
Yes.
visitation with the child, so he couldn't just completely take him from their lives. Now, August 2016, and is this when the FBI took over and said we're gonna be running the show now?
That's not till 2020.
Okay, so this I think might have been what Mo was referencing when they brought in. She said 18 cadaver dogs. Okay, I'll let you go. I'm sorry. I'll mute.
No, you're fine. So there'd already been one search for these properties, and again they do another search, and these were huge multi-day searches. 245 acres of farmland. I mean, that's an unreal amount of land to try to cover and find anything. So, and at this point, they didn't find anything. So now we move to the point where Crystal's dad is the next murder. So, Tommy had been doing his own investigation, as I'm sure most of us would if our children were missing and we weren't getting answers. He was doing a lot. They had Team Crystal is what they called it, and he was organizing searches. He had volunteers. He had so much going into this. And Sherry, Crystal's mom, has said afterwards that he started to get really paranoid as this search was going on, even to the point that he was telling the family members, you need to install security cameras, you need to carry firearms. He thought he was being followed. He felt like he was getting closer to finding something, and at the same time was getting more and more paranoid that someone was after him because he was getting too close.
Which I find also very interesting, because how many cases, and I know we saw this with Angela Ware, not that she was investigating anything, but there seems to be this, I don't know if it's like a sixth sense or something, when people something bad's going to happen to them. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but you hear this story over and over again about where the person, their family members or their closest people will come out and say they were very paranoid. They were, starting to get really scared that somebody was following them, or, whatever, just really paranoid that they were being followed, being watched, being whatever. And again, this has been going on now because we are in 2016. So with one dead end after another, with these huge investigations, pretty big investigations, I don't think necessarily the police department was not doing what they were supposed to. I haven't gotten that sense yet. But when you have all of these red flags and all of this stuff with Brooks and with Nick and with Grandma, and you're still not in grand juries, actually, and the other guy that was charged with perjury, and you still don't have answers, when it's like, isn't it obvious? Like, you can imagine his frustration, and based on what I've seen and what Hope has told me, like this dad was all in. He was like, he had a full-on operation looking for this girl. Like, it wasn't just him out in the woods looking. Like, he had a full-on operation. All right.
So we go to November of that year, and it was, I think, early fall when he started thinking that he was being followed. So they own property again. It goes right up to the Bluegrass Parkway. And he was taking his 11-year-old grandson hunting. This probably was the opening deer season. So, and it was known around town that he frequented this property on the weekends. He was very outdoorsy, did a lot of things. So they were both wearing their orange hunting vests. So they were easily seen. And shortly before 8 that morning, the grandson was going back to the truck to retrieve something he left behind, and Tommy was standing out in the field waiting for him to get back. And while he was standing there away from his grandson, he was shot in the chest and he died moments later.
Yep. So
And I have
here we are.
watched documentary on this where they kind of walked around this property, and the thing that stood out to me the most is there's this tree line on the parkway. There's no guardrail or anything there. You could easily pull a vehicle off to the side of the road. This tree line's very thin. It looks, I mean, the foliage on it is thick. It wouldn't have been so much in November, but it would be very easy for someone to stand in that tree line in camouflage and have a clear view of Tommy, shoot him, get back into their vehicle, and be gone on the parkway. So I tried to kind of demonstrate that on these pictures, but I can't.
I can see it. Can you not see it?
Yeah, I just don't know if it's obvious to everyone what I'm pointing out, but hopefully.
Well, yeah. No, it is. Like the red circles where he was, there's the tree line, and there's the Bluegrass Parkway. And then over here, we see the tree line close up, and the parkway's right there, or the road, for him to be able to get, or him or her get back in the car. Now, this kind of goes also just kind of going back to when we're talking about this family who has had so much tragedy. I mean, I'm sure immediately people's thoughts would go to this could be a hunting accident. There's other people out there hunting. He's in the middle of an open field in an orange vest. I mean,
Yes.
It's not like he was in a tree stand or, down crouched in the bushes. It just doesn't make sense. And the events leading up to it, again, kind of point to the, wait, what did this guy find out? What was he getting close to? His daughter's still missing. And
the convenience of it happening when the grandson was
away.
Beside him.
Correct. Wasn't near him. And again, we're back on the Bluegrass Parkway, which is where not only that officer was killed, but his daughter's car was found. It's just, I don't know. I get it, it's small town, but it's still a lot of open space, and it's just all too coincidental. Now we have dad and daughter, as well as, of course, the original officer dead, and mom is kind of left to carry on the search. And now she's going to be wanting to know what happened to her son, right? So KSP,
Yes.
what is KSP? Is that the Kentucky State Police?
Yes.
Okay. So here we are. They're back on doing another search on grandmama. Yep, grandmama's property. Okay. Now, this is just another coincidence that I think is just so flippin' weird. How?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. This is where I go. Brooks gets a new girlfriend, and you can elaborate on this. I just have to point out before we even get into the slide. I just have to scream it from the rooftops because it's just weird. And I know it doesn't mean anything, but it is weird. His new girlfriend's name is Crystal. She's a blonde. Like, it just is too much. And she's going around town vandalizing, the Stand with Ballard stuff. Like, and that's, Tommy, and Crystal's family. It's just bizarre.
Yes.
And by the way, if
she's-
any of you wondered if you could be arrested for doing that, apparently you can. I had no idea. Theft by unlawful taking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like
I
who?
would not have thought that.
Me either. But so we have another Crystal spelled the same way.
Yeah, so that's just kind of an interesting fact to throw in there that
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's just like another tidbit, another layer, right? So it's like an onion and we're peeling layer after layer after layer. And here's just another layer that he's got this girlfriend that has really, you would think, came into the picture after Crystal has gone missing. Why would she care that the family like is trying to find like out what happened to her father and her? Like it has nothing, so we think, to do with her. Like why would she even care? Like what is it affecting her life? But
yeah, it's 2 years
apparently-
later, so
yeah, 2 years later, apparently she's going around town ripping up the signs or whatever, you know, what we put out for awareness. All right, so you little stinker, Crystal Maupin. All right, now this I thought was great. I mean, great in the sense that like this is the type of activism I like to see.
yes. So it's about the 1 year anniversary from Tommy's death, and signs got put up all over Bardstown talking about the involvement of Brooks and Nick in the disappearance.
Yep. And I love it says Nick knows what happened. Nick failed a polygraph test. Detectives say Brooks Houck killed Rogers. And then this one says 5 things a murderer would say. Can you read that? I can't read it though, but I want to know what it says.
No, let me see if I can see it on my.
Oh, I can see it on the slide. Hold on, I can probably see it on my phone. I mean, this is just too good. Like when I say it, just mean like this is what should happen when any like should have happened with the Casey Anthony stuff, if you ask me. I know that's terrible, but hold on. Okay, let me see if I can get back and zoom. In case any of you can read it. Okay. I would never harm Crystal. I am innocent. I am 100% honest in everything I say. I am 100% not guilty at this. I'm 100% not guilty of this. And I didn't do anything to anybody. So those are the 5 things a murderer would say. Those were his answers every time he did a press release, every time he did an interview.
Yes.
All right. Now we're getting close to the end here, but we have I'll talk a little bit. I just feel like you've been talking the whole time. Give your voice a break and take a sip of your drink.
Okay.
June 27th, 2018, Brooks continues to deny any connection with Crystal's disappearance. Of course, and I think this was also the type of guy, the impression that I get. Dryer detective. I'm sorry that caught my attention, but I think this guy, based on like just what I've seen, because I didn't watch it happen in real time, he was also one that like he had no problem talking. Like he did bounce around and do interviews and things like that. Not that he said much, but he didn't shy away from it either. So he continues to deny any connection with Crystal's disappearance. He speaks now with WDBR. And this is when he says, I don't have anything to say. I really don't have anything to say because I don't know anything. So I really don't have anything to say. That is a direct quote. Now, in 2018,
Very insightful.
July, yeah, very insightful, very well spoken. In 2018, he's indicted on 4 felony counts and 4 misdemeanor counts for allegedly stealing roofing shingles from Lowe's. Okay. But then in April, he's found not guilty at a jury trial. So at this point, I don't know if law enforcement is grasping at straws just to get something on this guy, because the jury found him not guilty, but he was indicted. Okay. And then in a unforeseen event, On 2020, human remains are found near a creek in Nelson County. Now, is Nelson County where Bardstown is, Hope? Is that the county?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the same county, but the forensics determined that it was not Crystal. So to today, we still do not have a body. And I have my thoughts on why that is, and I'm sure we're probably all thinking the same thing at this point. Okay, so here's where in August of 2020, the FBI decides they're going to take over the lead investigation, and they're receiving assistance from multiple agencies, including the state police, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Kentucky, and there is involvement of more than 150 state and federal law enforcement. So 9 federal search warrants on multiple properties, again belonging to Nick and Brooks. So, I mean, they obviously have enough to think that these two are still involved. Here we are 5 years later. And, but yet, we're getting nowhere.
You know, interesting is her vehicle, you know, it was found on the parkway.
Correct.
They did not forensically do anything with that. Her mother stored it in a storage unit and did not touch it. Nobody did anything with it. She stored it in case they needed it someday. It kills me that they never did forensic stuff on this until the FBI got involved and
so that's a fair enough that's a fact that would show that Ellie was not I mean, that's kind of silly, you would think.
Yes. I mean, I think they did a general fingerprint.
Of course, sure. But there could have been
beyond that. No.
And we're not talking about 1980. We're talking about when there was still a lot of forensics available to be used to really kind of pick through that car with a fine-tooth comb. You know, I think maybe some people believe maybe she was just picked up, she was abducted on the side of the road or something along those lines. But, you know, when you're dealing with a family, I'm sorry, where you have a boyfriend and the brother's a cop, they know how to. I mean, police officers are trained in evidence collection, and I would think that makes them also really good at covering it up. I mean, let's be real. They know what to look for. Yes. So August 9th, 2020, the FBI releases new surveillance photos. So these were the photos I was thinking of that I was thinking of before, but this isn't the same white car, but it confused me for a minute. Where they believe may be connected. It's the white and red SUV. The FBI has now confiscated more than 5 to 6 rifles. Numerous boxes of evidence were carried out of Brooks' home and a computer. So this all came from Brooks, the boyfriend. And there's Mom with a picture of Crystal. Poor Mom. She's had so much heartache.
It has to be so frustrating. They have all this circumstantial stuff, but
thank you. Yes, I couldn't
without a body or anything solid. Mm-hmm. It's just, and they don't want to, because there's the double jeopardy thing. If they indict one of them and the jury finds them not guilty, they don't get a second chance. So they have to make sure they have something that's going to stick. And it has to be so frustrating.
And then like you think like the cockiness, well, I don't know. I don't know these individuals, but I'm just assuming they're like, again, just walking around thinking, because I believe that they were involved. I don't know how you guys feel up to this point with hearing everything, but I know that I think that they were involved. Be it an accident, be it a fight, be it, you know, he hit her and she bumped her head. I don't know. Be it he killed her because maybe she was going back to the disagreement with the other children. Maybe she had enough and was like, you know what? Like, you don't treat my other kids good. Who knows? But, you know, here we are, and he didn't want to lose his son. I mean, that seems to sometimes come into play. Now, this is interesting. So kind of what I was saying before about, and that Hope mentioned, that this is what Brooks does for a living. And then I chimed in. He was like, yeah, they just build those houses like people rent them. Like, they're the quick builds. That's what I call them. Like, you just build boom, 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 right? And then rent them out to people. So on September 8th, the FBI begins digging up the driveway in the front yard in one of these subdivisions that Houck Rentals. They own 3 homes in the subdivision. They built the 3 homes. And they were being built around the time of Crystal's disappearance. There were some tips sent in. So they dug up this, I don't know if anybody was living there at the time. If they were, oh well. But they dug up the front yard, I think. Was there a driveway? Yeah, driveway and front yard. And the officials say that the search came up as a result of tips, and multiple items of interest were found and sent to the FBI lab in Quantico. So that is interesting. Now, that was September 8th, 2021. So not even a year ago.
And they said
So-
it could take 12 to 18 months to get the forensic evaluation done or completed. And they have actually started working with the prosecutor, collaborating with the prosecutor there. So I am really hopeful that they have found something to charge.
Of course, because listen, the fact of the matter is there is no rhyme or reason that anything involving this woman, okay, this case, should be located on these properties and buried.
Right.
Like, there is no reason. Now, again, to call it a crime of passion or like a setup, if they didn't do a very good job, and I know you mentioned this to me, Hope, about like when her car was found, there was a flat tire, but her phone and her purse were in the car. So that kind of rules out a robbery, correct? Because you would
Yes.
think the phone and the purse would be taken if it was something like a carjacking, or, you know, she was on the side of the road and somebody decided to rob her, gang involvement, something like that. The only thing missing is her, you know?
Yes.
So,
And I mean, the
And-
keys were in the ignition. Like, it was just,
yeah, keys in the ignition.
and yes, the FBI ended up paying $28,000 to repair the property they dug up for this.
Oh, the FBI was responsible?
Yes.
Well, that's the government taking some responsibility for something. But so, like, I mean, I feel like somebody that doesn't even understand, like a layperson like us, I have no concept of forensics. I have no concept of evidence collection. But even if her hair, okay, a fingernail was found on this property, there is absolutely no reason it should be there unless Brooke put it there. He was the only one with access to it. She wasn't hanging out on the properties as far as we know, right? While these homes were being built, she wasn't laying sunning in the yard. I mean, there's no reason for it. So here we are. It'll be really interesting to see what comes of it. And you said that you've heard that they're brought some things to the prosecution. That's good news.
Yes.
Good news. No, 3-boy mom. I couldn't imagine. To be quite honest, I would want the body found for the family, but at the same time, like, especially now, like where my house is finally starting to get done, because those are new homes, you know, I'd be like, oh, goddamn, now they're going to dig up my yard. I just put my sod down. But, you know, I'd take one for the team, for the greater good. So we did put on the ticker, just, you know, Crystalrogers, and any information to please contact the sheriff, Nelson County Sheriff, or Casey, which I don't know who Casey is, but she put her name and her phone number on the sign. So I felt comfortable enough sharing it on the ticker, because don't anybody text her, please.
And there's a website, actually, the FBI started whenever they took over, and it's crystalrogerstaskforce.com. So they also take
Oh, good
tips
to know.
there.
Good to know.
So Crystal's mom thinks that Nick had something to do with Officer Ellis's murder. And then she believes that Crystal may have overheard Brooks and Nick speaking about something related to that murder. And that's why she got murdered. And then, of course, her dad was closing in on what might have happened. And so that was the cause for his murder. But that's just the mom's thoughts on how
Well,
things
I'm with
played
it.
out.
because there's definitely, in my opinion, some sort of a connection, right? That's just my feeling.
Yes.
That's just what I think. You know, and that would make sense. Because I just get this icky, yucky feeling from Brooke and Nick that they're just slime balls. And I just get that feeling. And I even hate thinking about that poor little boy growing up with that jerk. And I know I'm just being very judgmental, and I know I'm projecting my own thoughts on something. We should be just using fact based only. But at the same time, I just, they just give me the skeeves. They're scavots to me. Oh, thank you,
You
team.
can't, I might have felt differently without watching those interrogations, but to watch them, their body language and their answers, Brooks was not upset that she's missing. Like, he was upset for himself, not that she was not around. And it was 2 days after they had reported her missing, and he just had no emotion. And the things that all the details he was putting into this that were ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then to watch Nick, who is a police officer, react that way to questioning, I just, that's what kind of pushed me over the tipping point of they're involved. Allegedly.
Yeah. And just like the losing control, and I understand, maybe I get it. Nobody wants to be accused of something they didn't do, and it is frustrating, and I can't imagine that feeling. But at the same time, you are a police officer. You know how this goes. Your cooperation speaks volumes. Forget the polygraph. It's not admissible anyway. But that aside, your cooperation speaks volumes. Your lack of cooperation is telling a completely different story. Did you see Mo's question? There was another one in Kentucky where the guy burned the couch she was sitting on.
I don't know. Now, there's one where there's one that got burnt out in the woods. And someone actually came upon her as she was still on fire.
Oh, I can't even. That is one of the most horrendous cases. That is, I'll tell you right now. I was just looking at it. It was the car. The car was on fire, right?
Yes. And there was accelerant, so it looked like they had doused the car and her while she was still alive.
It was.
But I don't know if I'm trying to think. I don't know another one in Kentucky.
Was that in Kentucky? She was
in the area. I can't even
think of it. Share? Was it Shandashare? Yes. No. That was in no, that was in Indiana. Hold on. I'll think. I'm going to Google it, but I'll figure it out. That if anybody, there's a documentary. I don't know if it's a documentary, but like, I don't know if it was 48 Hours or it was on ID. I can't remember about that. And that young girl, when they interview the EMS and fire department who arrived on scene, and she was still alive, and she said something, remember? But her tongue, like, they thought she said a name of the boy who did it or the teen, who they think, whatever. But then again, like the specialist, they said there's no way to really make out what she was saying, but she was still alive. She was like 6, I don't know. She was between 16 and 19 years old. She was young.
Yeah, now Savannah Spurlock is near me. So yeah, I know a lot about that one too. And actually personally know some of the people.
Really?
Yes. And then we have the vampire cult. So there's all kinds of great stuff.
Yeah, we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Yeah, grand jury will review. Okay, so this was in 2021. Oh, was her name Autumn Owens?
No.
No.
Not the one I'm thinking of.
No, Autumn Owens was who was charged. Cecil Russell, no. Who is the victim? This is making me crazy. Was Lexington murder? It's going to make me nuts. All right. Well, I know we have a lot of good things to cover over the next couple weeks. There's a lot on the radar, and I know that I certainly appreciate you all coming and hanging out and covering this with us. I really enjoyed looking into this. There's still so much left to be known. I'm going to mute for a second. You take over.
And I hope that something is coming soon to enable an indictment, because this family, and I meant to say too, I think that the 11-year-old that Tommy was hunting with was actually Crystal's son. So this poor child has been through the ringer too. Can we please do an SS live? What? Oh, Savannah's Prolux. Sorry, I'm a little slow. Yes, definitely. I feel like I left some stuff out, but y'all would crack up at me because I have notebooks and notebooks of cases, because I'm the type of learner that if I don't write something down, I can't retain it. So I research things on the internet and I have to write it all down so that I can process it and put it together. So I have so many notebooks full of true crime cases. If they ever raid my house, it's going to be interesting.
You are a very, very good researcher. You do amazing. And you're really good at putting things together. I'm so grateful for you. I do have to jump down, though. It is that time that Babe's waking up from her nap. So I'm going to jump down. Are you going to hang out?
No, I think we're done. Thank y'all for coming.
Well, it was good.
We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Have a happy Sunday. Thanks for hanging, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.